Hey everyone, Fallout here, and today I'm going to do something that no other YouTuber has ever done before. Talk critically about Destiny 2 PvP. I know, but there's a first time for everything, lads. Today, I just want to share a few thoughts on the current state of Trials, which last time it was around hit record low numbers. There's a bunch of reasons I know for sure why people aren't playing Trials right now, but I think there's one big factor that I don't see being talked about enough, which to me is the biggest factor why I and a lot of other people are really passing on Trials this season. But real quick, guys, I gotta give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, HelloFresh. If you don't know who they are, you're really missing out. They deliver incredible seasonal recipes and fresh pre-measured ingredients right to your door. They're America's #1 meal kit. Not so hot at cooking? Don't worry, HelloFresh has foolproof step-by-step recipes that you can actually enjoy making. Skip the grocery store and spend more time eating good meals and actually enjoying your summer. Did I also mention that HelloFresh is up to 72% cheaper than dining out? With vegetarian, pescatarian, and fit and wholesome meals, they make it easy for you to stick to your dietary goals. Ditch boring low-cal food for HelloFresh. Their recipes don't skimp on flavor, so maintain those goals and feel good about what you're eating. I can honestly say that for me personally, meal kits like HelloFresh hella boosted my confidence with at-home cooking. Forget HelloFresh cuts down on your food waste by at least 25% compared to grocery shopping. They're the first carbon-neutral meal kit company, and nearly all their packaging is recyclable. Help the planet and eat better? Hell yeah, boys. What are you waiting for? Use my link or go to HelloFresh.com and use code POGFalloutJuly16 for 16 free meals across 7 boxes and 3 free gifts. Again, use my code for 16 free meals, and thank you again to HelloFresh. All right, where was I? Oh yeah, according to Trials Report on Twitter, the last time Trials was here, we hit notably low player numbers in the population. As they point out, that's despite being week 5 of a season with a loot refresh. Oof. So what's the goddamn deal? Why is Trials not that appealing right now? I say right now because I know that with the right tweaks, the playlist always has the potential to blow up. Some people could immediately point to the meta, and you know what? They ain't wrong. I gotta tell you, hugely annoying to do big chunks of damage to an enemy just for them to classy restoration hunter dodge around a corner while wearing worm husk. It's levels of health regen that would make Majin Boo blush. Thankfully though, classy restoration is going the way of the dodo next season, and hopefully Bungie files that armor mod under L for let's never bring that mod back ever again. You've got repeated problems that despite fine tuning are still annoying. Things like Omnioculus being really free, spam camo to your buddies for little to no ability cost, and get the benefits of invis and damage reduction. Loreley Titans still make me want to kick myself in the crotch, and on the grand scale of cheese, Lord of Wolves is top shelf fondue even after being nerfed multiple times. But I honestly don't think the meta is the biggest factor at play here. I think for some people, it's 100% the biggest factor, and again, I would not blame those people. Other people out there might immediately point to matchmaking. The community's been kind of at each other's throat ever since the creation of the flawless pool. I'm gonna be real with y'all and say that this could go either way for me. I know the creation of the flawless pool has both immediate upsides for certain portions of the PvP population, but also glaring downsides. At this point, I've come to completely adopt the philosophy of my good friend Drewski, who every week I pray will return to making goated D2 content on YouTube. But alas, he is traveling the land playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, which, you know what? Good for him. Probably sleeping a lot better these days, not logging onto Twitter and or Reddit every day. Dubs in the chat for Drew, wherever he is right now. But the page I'm kind of taking out of his book is the one of, at this point with the matchmaking, I borderline no longer care. Whatever is going to result in the strongest player population overall, that is what I'm voting for. Whatever matchmaking change yields the strongest overall state of D2 PvP and gets more people in the door, that is what I want. If that's nuking the flawless pool, fine. If that's keeping it and modifying it in some way from its current state, fine. I'll adapt either way. I just want what is best for the community at this point, whatever that answer might be. Again though, I know that for me, that's not the biggest factor keeping me away. You want to know what is? The loot. The loot in Trials right now holds almost zero appeal to me across the board. Just so I'm not getting my words chopped up here. Yeah, I'm not down with the healing meta, and I also know people don't like the matchmaking, but yeah, my biggest hangup is not exciting loot, plain and simple. Here's what we have right now loot-wise in Trials. Reed's Regret, Forgiveness, Summoner, Burden of Guilt, Aisha's Embrace, and Eye of Soul. 6 weapons total, and while 6 weapons could do it for me if they were the right weapons, these definitely ain't them. There is one notable exception to me, that being the Eye of Soul, which I really do think is a beast of a sniper rifle. Not my favorite of all time though, that would be the old Iron Telescope. But real quick, let me go through each piece of loot loot right here. Reed's Regret. When introduced, I was actually pretty hyped for it as a PvE weapon. However, that was until Bungie gave birth to a little gem called Storm Chaser. Now, I have to be a tad careful here. While working on today's video, Bungie put out a patch that corrected an apparent bug with the Storm Chaser that was causing it to fire too quickly. You could pretty much pre-charge your next burst shot while firing your current burst shot. Now that the change has come out, the rate of fire does feel a little bit slower. However, early feedback from other creators is that even with the rate of fire changes, Stormfire is still an S-tier damage dealing linear in PvE. On top of that, Storm Chaser is arc, which has the potential to take advantage of acute arc burn in Grandmasters. As of right now, we never had an acute stasis burn, which is kind of bad news for the Reed. Also, if you get right down to it, farming for Storm Chaser is dummy easy, whereas depending on your tolerance for PvP, trying to farm Reed would be about as much fun as trying to naked wrestle an aroused crocodile. TLDR, even with the rate of fire nerf, Storm Chaser is still hot, viable, and easier to farm than Reed. Moving on. Forgiveness is cool on paper, but there's two things in my mind going hard against it. One, legendary sidearms, while fun, aren't very meta up in higher levels of PvP, at least to me they're not. And even if they were, two, Drang, bro. Drang is disgusting, and in my mind is just the king of legendary sidearms. The 14 zoom on Drang makes it feel sticky, like Last Word Junior, and outside of certain exotic sidearms that can literally do things like fire a laser beam, it's hard to justify rocking a legendary energy sidearm in PvP not named Drang. And as if that wasn't enough, Drang is craftable, so no need to beat your head against the wall trying to get a dope forgiveness roll when you can just make a perfect Drang in one go. Summoner is kind of strong for an auto rifle. If we ever found ourselves in an auto rifle PvP meta, which for the record I've always kind of hated, then yeah, Summoner would be hot. But we're not in an auto rifle meta, and autos are currently getting dunked on hard by both hand cannons and pulse rifles. Also, the mere existence of a certain other gun completely outshines the Summoner in almost every way, but more on that in a minute. Burden of Guilt. I think it does have some potential, but I also think it's missing a lot of perks that we know for a fact perform really hotly on fusion rifles. Also, fusion rifles have been nerfed ever since the massive overusing of the Zur ingredient, which brings me to my next point. Most people have a cracked main ingredient because of Zur. He's brought a completely disgusting roll not once but twice in the past year. You could mention that Burden of Guilt is kinetic, and yeah, that is true. That really to me is the only reason why I want a good Burden of Guilt. I have other good fusion rifles, but many of them are energy, whereas the Burden is kinetic. Next, Aisha's Embrace. Even though I did use it in my Grandmaster Nightfall speedrun last week, it was really only because there was an acute void burn and it was my highest rolled void weapon that could also stun champions. It has funny and unique perk pairing potential like the combo of triple tap Vorpal or triple tap 4th times the charm, but honestly I'm just not that wild about it. You'll probably use it in PvE like me if there's an acute void burn and you need a scout rifle or a lot of range, but you probably won't use it in PvP because the vast majority of PvP players don't use scout rifles not named Deadman. Eye of Soul. Not you, buddy. You've been great. Now, what would be good Trials loot? Funny you should ask. I got 3 banger weapons right here up my sleeve. The Messenger, Shayura's Wrath, and Igneous Hammer. 3 of probably the best Trials weapons ever. Igneous Hammer is a 120, which ain't as popular as 140 RPMs currently, but still, 120s are epic at long-range team shooting and do well in the current healing meta. But you can't get these 3 Trials weapons anymore because they've been removed from the loot pool. And don't get me wrong, I get Bungie's dilemma. If you keep the same loot pool in forever, things might get stale. But for the love of God, man, we took 3 of the strongest Trials weapons out of the rotation all at the same time. Maybe we should have spread that out a little bit. By the way, Shayura's was the gun I hinted at that outclassed the Summoner, in my opinion. SMGs with great range are essentially auto rifles, and Shayura's is just disgustingly good at what it does. Shayura calls up Summoner late at night, starts laughing, and then hangs up. The Messenger is just a legendary version of No Time to Explain, with no bullet buddy, but with a wide variety of great PvP perks. High impact pulse rifles slap right now in PvP, and I legit feel bad for new players coming into the meta right now who don't have the ability to get a Messenger in this meta. But the bottom line is, with 3 of the hottest Trials weapons ever to be yoinked out of the loot pool all at the same time, with the vast majority of the current loot being outclassed by easier to obtain options, why would I play Trials? And let me tell you, I think that even with a rough PvP meta, if the loot is worth it, people will play. I mean, in a perfect world, we have a balanced and fun meta and worthwhile loot to chase. But when it comes right down to it, people will suffer through far worse if the loot is good. Look at the PvE side of the game. game. Me and countless other people have suffered through the experience of solo flawlessing multiple dungeons for an emblem that just sits there and doesn't even have the ability to take a life, unless you count all those times I died for it, which is another story. And take a gander back when we had weekends with desirable loot, or any of the weekends where there was some kind of glitch related to obtaining adept loot easier. For those initial weeks, the player numbers leapt up. Although I said it before, I'll say it again. I don't envy Bungie's position. The loot has got to be hot, otherwise people might not play. So you got to produce hot loot. But if we keep creating more and more fire Trials loot, you create power creep. It's a rough one, but to me the bottom line is the carrot's got to be shiny enough in some way to chase, or it's just not worth it. I mean, I might still play because I'm a content creator, but 100% I get why the numbers are low. And like I mentioned before, I think it's kind of messed up. I get the idea behind rotating loot drops, but that's gotta suck for new players coming in and hearing, oh, this weapon right here? Yeah, maybe the best legendary pulse rifle in the game that crushes the current meta? Yeah, you can't get that shit right now. Gotta wait half a year. Sorry, buddy. I'm really hoping that next season and beyond, we either get maybe some new hot loot, or maybe a better rotation of what's chaseable and what is unobtainable. Anyway, let me know what y'all are thinking down in the comment section. What's the biggest factor holding you back from playing Trials right now in Season 17? Feel free to also swing by the live stream at any point this week and share your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.